Hello, and thank you for joining me today for a conversation focused on financial planning. My name is Bethany Freimeyer, and I'm a financial advisor here at Blue Trust. I have been here at the firm over 17 years, and my journey has been such a joy. The words financial planning can sometimes feel like a bit of an enigma. We hear these words in commercials, on ads, on our radios and TVs, and all of us have different ideas about what financial planning actually means. Some of us wonder why it's even important. And even if we recognize the importance of it, we're unsure how to go about it. How do you even take first steps? And how do we know if we've been successful as we plan? Today, I'd like for us to spend some time talking about the lens we here at Blue Trust look through as we think about the concept of financial planning. As you may already know, here at Blue Trust, everything we do is from a biblical perspective. As followers of Jesus, we believe the principle that God owns it all. Psalm 24:1 says, "The earth is the Lord's and all that is in it." In my personal life, I sometimes want to carve out my tithe and say, "Okay, Lord, that's your part, and the rest of us is mine." But this verse, as I internalize it, reminds me that I'm simply a steward of all that God has entrusted to me. If I truly believe that God owns it all, then I want to live a life focused on the eternal rather than the temporal. Financial planning from a biblical perspective helps us to make wise decisions, have time for relationships, and focus on what really matters. And speaking of what truly matters, as we begin today, I'd like to share our firm verses with you. These verses, 1 Timothy 6:17 through 19, fully encompass our mission here at Blue. The verses say, "Instruct those who are rich in this present world not to be conceited or to fix their hope on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly supplies us with all things to enjoy. Instruct them to do good, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, storing up for themselves the treasure of a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is life indeed." Here at Blue, we really desire for our clients to enjoy what God has given them. We want them to be intent on doing good for the kingdom, being rich in good works, and being generous and ready to share. And to accomplish these God-sized goals, we need financial planning. As we think through a framework to use when developing financial plans for our clients, we've created a list of 5 questions that we refer to as, get ready, this is novel, our 5 key questions. We believe these 5 questions encompass everything we need to think about related to financial planning. And the neat thing about these 5 questions is that they have yes or no answers. We believe if you can ask yourselves these 5 questions and answer yes to all the questions, you're most likely in a good spot and you probably have a solid financial plan. But if your answer to one or more of the questions is no or I don't know, then you know you may have some work to do. Working through these 5 key questions helps us focus on what's eternal, have a context for financial decision making, understand the importance of investing, but not just in financial instruments, also spiritually and emotionally with family and friends. Planning helps us to slow down our pace by simplifying our financial lives, and it helps us with accountability, which leads to peace of mind. I know I want to find success in every single one of these areas, and I'd love to walk through these 5 key questions together and see how we can apply them in our lives. The 5 key questions are, do you have written goals driving your financial decisions? Are you purposefully giving, saving, and spending? Are you making wise investments? Are you on track to accomplish your long-term goals? Are you prepared for the impact of death or disability upon you and or your family? All right, are you ready? Let's unpack them together. The first question we want to look at, which really helps us cast a vision, is the question, do you have written goals driving your financial decisions? For me, as a full-time financial advisor, a mom who works outside of the home, and a wife, I have many good intentions. I'm just telling you that sometimes I have great ideas. I have impactful ideas. I truly have thoughts and impressions I feel God has placed in my heart. But without some kind of intentionality to help me capture and execute, many times I'm simply surviving life in the best way, with time passing quickly. And suddenly I realize the dreams and goals God has placed in my heart haven't and aren't happening simply because I haven't taken intentional time to make a plan. Proverbs 16:9 says, "Man plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps." And for the Lord to direct our steps, we must give him time when we actually listen to what he may be impressing upon our hearts. I don't know about you, but this is not something that happens by chance at 10 o'clock at night when I'm exhausted after working all day. I've helped with dinner, I've attended sports events, I've gotten the kids ready for bed, lunches are ready, I've filled the water bottles, and I've finally fallen on the couch, and I'm not my best. So if my husband and I have important conversations at 10 p.m., they really don't end with powerful spiritual insights. They end in exhaustion and sometimes disharmony. So we want to set aside dedicated goal planning time annually, a time we're stepping out of our regular routine of life and we're praying, we're spending time alone with God to ask him and to listen as he guides us regarding what he may want us to do or accomplish in the future. As he speaks and guides, we want to record our goals so that they're clearly defined and measurable. It's never, ever convenient, but it's always, always worth it. And one thing to point out here, this is important. Goals are based on faith and following God's leading. They're not based on past accomplishments or current resources. Ephesians 3:20 says God can do abundantly more than we could ask or imagine. And if God has given you a God-sized dream, trust him for it. Remember, if he calls us, he'll equip us. To aid in this goal planning discipline, we've created a curriculum surrounding goal planning. And we pass this curriculum along to our clients and friends. We use the curriculum ourselves. It's a guide, a framework of what a dedicated goal planning time could look like. Please reach out to us if you'd like a copy of this. We would be honored to pass it along to you. Okay, let's move on to question 2. Are you purposefully giving, saving, and spending? Which can also be said, are you managing your cash flow effectively? We believe there are only 5 things that we can do with money. We can charitably give it away. We can use it to pay taxes. We can use it to pay off debt, liabilities we have. We can use it for living expenses like our groceries, our utility bill, gas for our cars, or the 5th use of money is what we call margin. And margin is anything we have left over after the other 4 uses. And we can spend our margin, or we can save and invest our margin for future goals. And if you have margin, it means you're spending less than you earn. Great, which is the key to accomplishing our future goals. So, how do you find success to gain clarity within these 5 uses? Okay, I know you may be thinking, budget. This is a budget. She's saying we have to have a budget. Okay, don't panic. I mean, maybe, but just hang with me. I know there are some of us who love a spreadsheet. We love a budget, we enjoy the process. But others of us aren't really jazzed by a budget. We might even, this is me, enjoy the process of setting up a budget, but actually sticking to it and allocating expenses as we incur them, yuck. Different systems work for different people, and we definitely don't want you to come up with something that's unsustainable and complicated if what you're doing now is working for you. But we do know it's vital to be purposeful in how we steward the resources God has given us. Within this question, I'd like to introduce a concept called bucket budgeting. And just like with goal planning, please feel free to reach out to us if you'd like some bucket budgeting resources. We would be thrilled to share those with you. Basically, bucket budgeting is a bit like setting up a budget, but the greatest thing about it is that once you do the work of setting it up, except for once in a while if you need to tweak things, it just works on its own without much thought or maintenance from us. The end goal of setting up this type of spending plan is clarity and simplicity, in that you spend little time managing the process and you have freedom and discretionary spending because you know how much is available. Here's the basic concept. You will have 2 checking accounts and a savings account. And the savings account will give you the ability of creating buckets within it to prioritize and have clarity while saving for different goals. Your first checking account will be for your fixed spending. So this is what we would refer to as your bills account. This could look like your charitable giving if you consistently give the same amount. Debt payments, utility bills, maybe gas for your car, anything that's generally the same each month or in the ballpark of the same. You'll want to figure out what that dollar amount is and direct that amount into your fixed spending checking account each month. We recommend setting up auto pay for as many of these expenses as possible, just to simplify, because who doesn't need more simplicity? I do. Then you'll want to set up a savings account. But ideally, a savings account that allows you the capability of setting up different buckets you can name and direct funds toward. There are several online savings accounts that allow you to do this, and we find this approach gives clarity and freedom in saving for certain goals, and then feeling the freedom to spend in those buckets. For instance, my savings buckets look like insurance paid annually or biannually, a new car fund where I'm paying myself a car payment before my next vehicle purchase, a vacation bucket. Okay, here's a good one, school expenses. This one is really relevant in my life right now. So my kids are in a season, I have 2 boys, an 8th grader James and a 3rd grader Silas, and my kids are in a season where they are playing sports, they're doing all kinds of school activities, and they add up and they are expensive. I feel like every week the school is asking for $100, $200 for all of these various activities and expenses. So when I create a school activities bucket and steadily fund it over time, even on weeks the school's not asking for money that week, then the money is there when I need it. You can fund these buckets per paycheck or periodically, whatever works for you. Finally, as I mentioned, you'll have a second checking account. So you're sending money into the fixed checking account for bills and fixed expenses, and you're sending money to steadily build your savings buckets, and whatever is left can go into this checking account, the second checking account, your variable spending account. This account for my family helps me see, can we eat out after church on Sunday? Can I send flowers to my son's teacher to encourage her this week? Could I meet friends and see a movie? I'm not stealing from the bills account to do extra things. I have clarity on how much extra I have. What do you think? For many of our clients and many of us who work here at Blue, this approach has brought great clarity and insight into our finances. Final thoughts on this question. The world defines success in terms of income and lifestyle, but in God's eyes, these things are unimportant. It's really easy for us to forget that. How we spend our money speaks volumes about our priorities and our belief systems. If we believe that God truly owns it all, every spending decision is, in reality, a spiritual decision. Thanks for hanging in with me. Let's move to the third question. Are you making wise investments? When we answer this question in our work, we do talk through each client's specific investments and we make recommendations. But generally, what's guiding us are a couple of concepts we always think through as we consider this question. Many of us, including me, are in the accumulation stage of life. And when we're in this season, we like to use as a guide what we call our sequential investment strategy. These are stair steps that help order our priorities as we attempt to wisely steward the resources God has provided to us. Conceptually, we want to pay off any non-mortgage debt, establish an emergency savings, create savings buckets to save for major expenses like home repairs, remodel of our home, saving for a down payment on a home, auto repairs, a big trip we might have coming up. And then the final stair step is long-term investments. These are investments you don't need to touch for at least 10 plus years. These could look like your 401k or your Roth IRA, or even funds you've placed in a taxable investment account from extra savings that you know won't be needed for 10 plus years. Eventually, after being in the accumulation phase and using these stair steps, you enter a decumulation phase, where you're figuring out how to wisely distribute the resources and the funds you've saved or perhaps even inherited. The decumulation phase is normally in a later season of life when you may not be earning income, and you want to ensure you are wisely positioning the funds you need now to live and will need in the coming years. When we think about investments and how to invest our clients for best success, we're always asking, what's the money for and what's your time horizon? So how long until you need it? The answers to these questions help guide us to make the best recommendations for your situation. Something that is so insightful and clarifying about a financial plan is that we map out a cash flow until our clients are 100 years old. We enter assets, liabilities, expenses, we account for inflation, and this helps us to create a roadmap of what resources our clients will need and when. We look at how much do you think you'll need in the next couple of years? We would want these funds to be in a very short-term conservative investment vehicle, even a high-yield savings or money market. Then, money that may be needed in the next 3 to 9 years, we invest in what we call our intermediate-term investment strategies. These are strategies that have a goal to keep pace with inflation, but normally don't have the volatility or potential for growth that many long-term investments have. Finally, any money that is not needed for 10 plus years, we want to invest those funds for the long term in more equity type investments. And just a neat thought to throw in on diversification. Ecclesiastes 11:2 says, "Divide your portion to 7 or even to 8, for you do not know what misfortune may occur on the earth." Now, how many of us knew that the Bible actually speaks to the diversification of investments? Any secular advisor would guide you to diversify your investments, but isn't it neat that it's also a biblical concept? As we answer this third question, are you making wise investments? We're following the sequential investment strategy, and we're basing our investment strategy recommendations on the purpose of the funds and when the funds are needed. Only 2 questions left. The fourth question is, are you on track to accomplish your long-term goals? In question 1, we talked about defining goals. Within that question, we hope we've helped to talk and think through long-term goals. Long-term goals could look like anything that's more than 10 years out for you. Could be education for your child, could be a later season in life when you may no longer earn income. And as we work together to map out this future season, we take all kinds of variables into consideration. Possible rates of return, planning for inflation, Social Security benefit estimates, and more. This can also be an area where we evaluate different scenarios, like, what if I feel God's calling me into full-time volunteer ministry at 55 years old? Is that doable in my financial situation? What would it take for it to be doable? Or I feel very strongly about charitably giving X dollar amount, but it seems impossible. Could you help me figure out what might be possible? And I'd like to make just a few comments surrounding retirement as we walk through this question. Did you know that the Bible is virtually silent on the concept of retirement? We desire for our clients to look at retirement not as an ending, but as a beginning. What are you retiring to? It's the start of the next phase in your service to God's kingdom. If you're on this earth, God has a great purpose and plan for you. You can have the financial freedom to use your talents and abilities to fulfill God's next purposes for your life, even after your primary career is completed. Finally, we've arrived at the last question. Are you prepared for the impact of death or disability upon you and or your family? I always say this is the most unfun question we talk through, but wow, is it necessary to discuss. It is vital to ensure your loved ones will be prepared when something happens to you. We include this question in the 5 key questions because it's just too important not to ask and prepare for. And within this question, we discuss life insurance and estate planning. We know insurance can protect and provide for you and your family. Buying insurance does not signal a lack of faith, but demonstrates prudence and good stewardship in planning for an uncertain future. We evaluate together the insurance you may already have if changes are warranted. We always look forward to a time when you may be what we call self-insured, where your savings and your investment balances outweigh the balances of your liabilities. But we also consider your goals personally. Do you wish to leave an inheritance to your children, to a charity? As we talk through estate planning, it's amazing to me how many individuals and couples we talk with who have felt frozen and not done any planning in this area. We would encourage you to ensure you have a will and related documents that include a durable power of attorney and an advanced healthcare directive. And depending on each client's situation, we make appropriate recommendations regarding what path estate planning should take. And just as we talk through some of our internally crafted curriculum on goal planning and bucket budgeting we offer clients, as we answer this question, something called our homegoing packet. And this packet of information helps to guide you through important planning questions, both softer questions like, would you like to write letters to your children or family members? Do you know what your celebration of life service might look like? What would you like for it to look like? And then more practical questions. What accounts do you have? How do you get in them? As you look toward planning for a time you desire for your loved ones to simply be able to grieve your loss and not panic about where paperwork is, how to find what they need to work through a process that may feel foreign and completely overwhelming. Remember, how you leave your estate will have significant impact on your heirs. An estate plan can communicate your values and character. So we're not just talking about passing along money. We are talking about passing along character, values, and a legacy. You've made it. We've now talked through the 5 questions that we feel are vital to ask ourselves when working through a comprehensive financial plan. Do you have written goals driving your financial decisions? Are you purposefully giving, saving, and spending? Are you making wise investments? Are you on track to accomplish your long-term goals? And are you prepared for the impact of death or disability upon you and or your family? So I now must ask you, can you answer yes to each of these 5 questions? If your answer is a no or maybe, then we would encourage you to pursue counsel or a resource that can help you get there. I don't know where you are in your financial journey. You may be far along, and you may have nodded your head with me as we walk through each of these questions, completely in alignment, and you are confidently handling this business. Or you may have been intrigued by these questions, but hesitant to jump in. Maybe you felt like finances just aren't your thing. I want to encourage you as we close our time together to take one step. One of my favorite chapters in the whole Bible is Isaiah 43. And in verses 18 and 19, Isaiah talks about how God is doing a new thing. Will we choose to be part of it? Sometimes it takes what feels like a big leap to jump in and be part of something new God is doing. But God is always faithful, and we don't regret it. There are so many holistic pieces of your puzzle that come together when you dive into work like this, and guess what? You aren't alone. Blue Trust loves to serve women in any season of life, and whether single, married, single again, or widowed, we would love the privilege of journeying with you as you embark on a financial planning journey. If you'd like more information on our services or to access our curriculum I referenced, the goal planning booklet, bucket budgeting guide, or our homegoing planner, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at connect@bluetrust.com. Also, please plan to join us for our next webinar taking place next Wednesday, March 13th at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You don't want to miss this helpful conversation as we'll be discussing the investment fundamentals for women. You can use the QR code on the screen to register for that webinar if you haven't done so already. We are here, and we can't wait to connect with you. God bless.